This is Nice Work. I'm Kayte Young. Amanda Nickey is a miniaturist, an artist who makes things at a tiny scale.
When I'm working, I'm trying to keep in mind the 1/12 scale. So that means that 1 inch is a foot in the real world. They're done on a scale so that they fit in what is traditionally a dollhouse size, 1/12 scale.
Amanda is also, full disclosure, a good friend of mine. I know her pretty well. She thought I might be interested in checking out a miniatures show that she goes to every year in Chicago.
It's like a religious experience, I think, for people who like really good art and can appreciate that people are working in the real way that those kinds of things are made on a large scale. They're working on a small scale. It's just mind-blowing, I think. And some of these people are the best in the world at what they do. Like, they're the finest miniature jewelry maker. They're members of the International Guild of Miniature Artisans and represent the best of that practice. It's really exciting to see all of that in one space and to just be able to experience all of those things up close.
I did end up going, and it was fascinating. I saw woven baskets, minuscule cross-stitch projects, Christmas ornaments, soup ladles, all at 1/12 scale. So think about that. If 1 inch equals a foot, and you're crafting a tree ornament that's 2 inches tall, it's going to be smaller than 1/4 of an inch. And then if you're putting in lots of detail, it can get pretty ridiculous. But, I mean, in a good way. Like I said, it's fascinating. I was particularly thrilled with an artist who specializes in clothing, period clothing specifically.
I make clothing of all eras, but right now everyone is wanting the 50s and the 60s clothes. So I make anywhere from nightgowns to leather jackets to Elvis Presley suit. And I make swimsuits. Most of them are the 50s. There's the cherry one is the 1940s.
This work is exquisite. It is so detailed. She says nightgowns, but you really have to see it to appreciate the fine cuts, the needle and lacework on these sheer gowns, something you might see Betty Draper wearing on an early episode of Mad Men. Her name is Janet Middlebrook. I got the sense she's kind of a big deal in the miniatures world.
I've been doing it going on my 49th year. This is the only show I do, the Chicago International. I don't take orders or anything like that, so people have to come to me. And it's a wonderful, beautiful hobby.
So these are the kind of thing that you could hang in a room or you could throw it on a bed.
Right, yes. And I've even made motorcycle jackets. They used to hang their motorcycle jackets on the handlebars of their motorcycle. So I make one to fit the handlebars. And there's matches or cigarette pouch.
Oh, that's so great. Thank you so much for talking to me. This is great. I'm thrilled to meet you and to see your stuff. It's
Thank
beautiful.
you so much, and it was nice meeting you too.
And I saw vendors who use 3D printing for exact replicas of things like a Fisher-Price Cience or a Polaroid camera circa 1979, which the artist has hand-painted with very fine brushes. I actually bought one of those. Nostalgia. But honestly, what I find more interesting than the spectacular Chicago show is Amanda's practice as a miniaturist. So for instance, I'm intrigued by the kinds of things she makes, how she makes things, and what the experience of that Chicago International Miniature Show is like for her. Also, what kinds of miniatures does she collect? What does the world of miniatures mean to her? And how does it make her feel to create at this scale? I wanted a peek inside this tiny world with someone I know, someone on the inside. So I visited Amanda in her studio, a room next to the garage at her South Side home in Bloomington. Let's start with what she makes. She's crafted many different kinds of small objects. For a while, she was making plants, like houseplants for her dollhouse. She's made different kinds of food, breads, cakes, fried eggs in a cast iron skillet, She crafted some window shades with a functional pull string that lifted the blinds. And she made an entire bakery diorama for me as a gift, complete with the ginger duck cookies and jam thumbprints that I'm known to make at Christmas time. In recent years, she's been making pottery. She has a small potter's wheel where she can throw pots like one might on a full-size wheel. She uses real clay.
The clay that I use most often is porcelain, white porcelain and black porcelain. I also use black stoneware, white stoneware, I guess just regular stoneware. I've worked with terracotta before as well. I find it hard. The grainier, the more challenging I find it to be on a tiny wheel.
One of the things she makes on the wheel is teapots.
These are my favorite. The teapots are made in the same way that a full-size teapot is made. So I form the body on the wheel, I form the spout on the wheel, and I form the lid on the wheel. And then those pieces are put together while they're still leather hard. And the spout has a hole, and the body of the pot will be carved out so that the spout fits over that. And there is a hole from the body of the pot through the spout all the way out of the teapot. So you could drop tiny little bits of tea out of it. It's so cute. I like it. In the miniature world, I like things that can function and that can be opened and can be, I like books that you can open that are in miniature. I don't want books that are just a piece of wood that has like a cover glued onto the front of it. I like things that are functional and that you can use in the same way that you might use it in real size. There's just something fun about it.
When I visited her studio, she had a few vases that she was getting ready to fire. I really like the shape of that one. Could you try to describe what that one is shaped like and also a sense of the scale?
The scale is like less than an inch tall.
Yeah, it looks like about a half-inch tall.
Yeah, and then maybe 3/4 of an inch wide. It's not quite orb shape, and then it comes to a very, very tiny center hole.
It's like a vase, but it's really tiny and it's almost a sphere. This piece has not been fired yet. It's drying, but not fully dry. She plans to fire this one with a process called naked raku. It doesn't get a glaze, which is why it's called naked, and instead she burnishes the surface of the pot to strengthen it and give it a subtle sheen, kind of an eggshell finish. If the surface is too dry, she can add a drop of water.
I use polished rocks, but you can use lots of other things. Bigger pieces you could use like the back of a spoon or some piece of metal and just rub the piece until you start to get a bit of a shine. And these pieces, what I am doing with them after I fire them is a process called naked raku, and you basically take organic material and drop it on the piece hot from the kiln, and it leaves impressions and marks on the surface of the clay.
So what kind of organic material?
You can use hair, all kinds of hair. People who do like normal sized pieces of raku use horsehair a lot. I use angora and wool and sometimes cat hair. The cat hair is kind of on accident sometimes if it gets caught up in other stuff. And then I use sugar primarily. I like the look that sugar makes, and it smells really good. It smells a lot better than wool burning in my garage.
We head out of Amanda's studio and into the garage for the firing stage.
So I fire all of my pieces in a microwave kiln, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a little round kiln that you put into a home microwave. You want to use a microwave that is not used for food, so it's not like you do this in your kitchen microwave. And we'll fire this for 20 minutes at the highest level the microwave has.
After about 20 minutes, it's time to take the pot out of the kiln.
Okay, so the piece is fired. We're going to take it out of the kiln quickly. It should be very hot. We're going to pick this buddy up, put him here. He's starting to catch on some of the materials. I really like the way sugar looks when we do this.
Oh, wow.
And so that's kind of my favorite material to use, is just to drop the sugar on. The stuff that's in the dish itself is kind of burning the bottom and leaving some marks on the bottom, and so that'll be interesting to see. Okay. So then you take the piece and you can drop it in the water, and that'll kind of cool it off. We'll let it sit in there for a couple minutes, and then we'll take it out and scrub it off. I really like if we remember how white the surface was of this piece before, really resting it in that bed of materials has blackened the entire bottom, and then you get this kind of, I don't know, almost like a milky brown kind of color and all the little dots. And
yeah, I like the speckles.
Yeah.
They look like little freckles. They're uneven. And
yeah. There's something exciting about the process, that it's spontaneous, or I don't know, it's not... I'm not the kind of person that can follow a pattern very easily in other areas like knitting or that kind of thing. I just kind of like to see what happens.
Yeah, this looks like a good form for that.
Which is, that's what makes this fun, is that there's, apart from the danger side of it, there's not really anything that you can do that's wrong. Everything that you put on it that is organic is going to leave some kind of mark. And that's just fun to play around with.
Yeah, and every piece is going to be unique.
Yeah, you can't really duplicate these things or replicate them. Yeah, every piece is going to look like its own. There's a little bit of water inside, but that'll evaporate out.
Amanda also showed me how she makes mugs. At 1/12th scale, coffee cups are very small, just over a 1/4 inch tall. She was determined to figure out the handles, which are trickier than you might imagine.
So these are mugs that are in the bisque stage. So the mug is thrown on the wheel, the handle is done separately, and I use just a clay extruder, which is just this kind of device that you're pushing clay through a hole, and you can choose various sizes and shapes.
Yeah, I think Play-Doh toys.
Yes, exactly. And so I extrude the handles in different shapes and gauges or thickness and shape them. Clay at that size, so when we're talking about the handle, it dries really quickly, in a matter of seconds. It becomes difficult to manipulate.
It's like a string. It's like
thin.
the size of a really thin wire that you might use for jewelry making or something.
Yeah, it's similar to that. It's thinner than yarn. And so you have to shape it really quickly. And I find it really hard to do that on the mug itself. So I shape the handles separately and fire them separately. I join the handle to the mug after they've both gone through the bisque.
The bisque is the first firing of pottery before you put on a glaze.
And I use a clay mender to attach the handles, and then I glaze and fire them as one piece.
Amanda's small-size pottery wheel functions similarly to a full-size wheel. She walked me through the first steps of shaping a mug.
So we're centering the clay, which feels funny at this size. You're really just using 2 fingers to center it. We've centered it and brought it up a bit. We're going to use a really small tool to kind of push down into the center and try to create that cup shape that we want. And then we're going to use our fingers again and kind of push the clay so that it starts to come up a little bit taller and really take on more of the shape of a cup.
There was more to it than that, but when she was happy with the shape, she removed it from the wheel to air dry. And like she said, she'll fire it once before attaching the handle with a clay mender, which is made from a thin clay slip. And then she'll glaze it and fire it as one piece. It sounds complicated, and in a way, it is.
So often when I meet people through this work, and they thankfully are blown away by how cool it is and how tiny it is and all of that, and they ask do you think it's hard? And often I say, no, I don't think it's hard. I think it's easier than doing it in full scale. And I think there are ways that it's harder, sure, but those ways work for me. Those are things that work for my brain and, my hands and just the way that I work. I don't like things to take a long time. I don't want to wait days before I can fire something. I would lose interest very quickly. And so the speed at which I can make things and fire them because of the size and because of the materials I use is satisfying for me, which for me makes it feel like it's an easier process.
The satisfaction is immediate. And I've noticed how quickly her skill set has advanced. She can try several different methods or iterations of a process in an afternoon, rather than the weeks and months it might take with standard scale ceramics work. And so you have this dollhouse. In addition to making ceramics, you've crafted a lot of other things and maybe purchased some, and you've collected a house full of furnishings.
Yes, I have. I guess I've always been interested in miniatures. I had a dollhouse that I built when I was a kid into my teens, and then as an adult kind of played around with dollhouses as well, building and fitting them out with stuff. And this one I think I got before the pandemic and then really focused on during the pandemic, kind of finishing it and decorating it. It's still not finished, and that's what I like about it, is that it's kind of an ongoing process. My daughter helps with this dollhouse, and she kind of has her own little room that's hers in it. We built her a bathroom this year in the dollhouse. And it's fun to just find things that we really like and add it to the house. I think there, maybe in like all sorts of worlds of collecting, there are people who want all of the things, and then there are people who are interested in, I don't know, maybe like the finest examples of things. And I think we're kind of in the middle, where I'm interested in lots of different formats. Like I love reproductions of real things, like the little journals and comics and things that my daughter likes to collect. She has a little Garfield phone. She's really into Garfield. There was a maker in Chicago who made the kind of like, if you remember in the 80s, the Garfield phone. And so there's things like that are kind of maybe silly and whimsical. And then there are things like this little wooden box that's made by this little couple that I see in Chicago every year. They primarily work in wood and metal, but they use a lot of the same methods that you would use in large woodworking in terms of joins and how to carve and work in the wood, things I don't know anything about, but they've been making miniatures for years.
One of the things I'm noticing, just standing here casually glancing at the house, is that you have this cool little scale bulletin board in the kitchen. It's got scaled little cards and notes and stuff on it. It's amazing.
They're really cute. These are like little holiday cards. The house is still kind of decorated for the holidays. There's a lot of
I see a gingerbread house.
Yeah, lots of Christmassy type stuff up.
I love how there's a closet and there's a bunch of just extra furniture and stuff shoved in it.
It's not quite, that room's not quite finished, but it has a working, so the whole house is electrified. It's wired for electricity, and I can put lights in each room, but it has like a bare bulb light, and there's something really spooky, neat about that for a closet.
Yeah, and there's also a skeleton in the closet.
It's where the decorations for other holidays go. So there's a lot of Halloween decorations in here. There's a lot of extra furniture and rugs and.
Yeah, but I mean, you've got skeleton in your closet.
Literally a skeleton in the closet.
I just noticed something that looks like the urn for your cat's ashes. And I only know that because I know you and I remember when Kitty died.
It is. So when my cat died, I ordered an urn from a potter that was in the shape of a black cat. It had this really kind of glassy, glossy black finish to it. It had a cat head on top that could remove, and you could put the ashes inside. And so that's what Kitty is in. And then I was inspired by that piece and decided to make urns myself. And I made a variety of cat-shaped urns. I made a variety of cat-shaped things at that time. So urns, there were yarn bowls that were in the shape of cats. Those were really fun to make. But the urns were a really interesting thing to explain to people. And so the first few times I had people approach me at a show when I had a set of them, and I made them to look like different kinds of cats, and I made some of them just be solid, bright colors that no cat would ever be. But explaining what they were, and then kind of finding my people, and the people who really connected with that as an idea and as something that they wanted in their dollhouse. There was something really satisfying also about that like I had this, idea. It was a copy. I was copying something. I copy lots of things to make them in miniature, and you get inspired by what's around you in the real world, and you want to see it in this tiny scale. But to be able to find people who could appreciate that and say, oh yes, I also want a tiny urn in the shape of a cat in my dollhouse. I was selling them online for a while, and a few miniaturists were buying them that way, but someone bought one and I shipped it off, and then they wrote to me and said, oh, I misread the listing. I thought this was a full-size urn. Can I return it? And I was like, absolutely. And so now every time someone buys it, I write to them, even though it's in the listing and, it's a scaled photo and all of that. I write to them and say, just so you know, this is a 1/12 scale piece of pottery. It's not made for use for real remains. It's not going to fit anything. And half of the people who buy it say, oh, I did not know that. Thank you for telling me. I think some people really like to have a certain time period or aesthetic or whatever to a dollhouse that they're working on. Some people create them to be very modern and they are their dream house or whatever. I kind of like to think of this space as like, yeah, I would like to live here. I would like to make this house look like something that I would like to have. The thing that I think is maybe different than what other people who make dollhouses or work with dollhouses is that I don't have any people in my house. No people are allowed in my house. I have cats, I have birds, I have a snail, no people. And I like to just kind of imagine and curate the spaces without the people. And I don't know what that says about me, but it does feel like a space that I can kind of imagine things through.
Simon Garfield, who wrote a book about our fascination with miniatures, talks about the desire for control. As kids, playing with action figures and toy cars gave us a sense of dominion over the world at a time when we had very little say in how our lives would be. As adults, a small world that mimics the full-size world can again offer a feeling of power and dominance, especially in a world that seems increasingly out of control. I don't think that's exactly what's going on with Amanda. Listen to how she talks about the first time she went to the Dick Bishop International Miniature Show in Chicago.
So it was a few years ago. My mom and I went, and we just went as shoppers. We didn't really know what to expect. We hadn't really been to something like that before. She is also kind of really interested in miniatures, and it's a hobby and kind of a passion we can share. I knew she would enjoy it, so we went together. And it's just such, even then, even a few years back, everything felt really heavy and everything felt really hard. And I think we all find that there are not lots of spaces where things can feel light and joyous, and you can feel like you deserve to enjoy things and be happy and take joy in things, like that your brain doesn't have to be on making note of the heaviness of everything all the time. And it was just, I felt going in just as a shopper again, that space was so welcoming and inviting. And I think I said this before, but just the art and the work that everyone is doing is so magical, and it makes you curious. It makes you wonder, like, how did they manage this, and how did they make this? What kind of tools are they using, and that kind of thing. One piece that sticks out in my mind was a person who made. They made a variety of things, but the thing that I remember was a rotting apple, and you actually had to look at it through a magnifying glass to be able to see the detail. And it was a bite taken out of the apple, and then the browning of the flesh of the apple, and the kind of bending and dehydrated look of the skin of the apple. Like it looked like a tiny little apple that someone had taken a bite out of and it just sat on a table, and it started to yellow and brown, and it looked real. And that's the kind of thing that, like, I recognize how weird and silly and insignificant that is in the world, but it's delightful to see. It's a really joyous thing to see. I don't know, like, there's just something really awe-inspiring about being in those spaces and seeing that work done. But I think that for me, there was an emotional or like a mental health function that not just that show, but this craft provides for me, that it's like, it's something that I can take joy in. It's something that I can see from start to finish. It's something that, as someone who knows how a lot of this work is done, I can appreciate when I see another artist and what they're doing when I go to the show. And I don't know, there's just like some humanity piece to it that's like filling a need that I have. I don't know.
So I'm hearing that that's a reaction you have when you go to the show and you see some of these wondrous things that people have created. How do you feel when you're in here in your studio working on these tiny objects?
I think that depends. I think sometimes I'm in here and I'm really focused on producing. Like, oh, I need to make this many of this, or I'm working on something that someone has specially requested, and it's a very precise piece that has to measure in a very precise way and that kind of thing. But when I'm in here and I'm making something just from my own mind or my own idea, it's soothing. It gives me something to focus on. It's, I don't know, fulfilling sounds weird, but it is kind of a fulfilling process to have a vision for something, have an idea of what I want to be able to make, especially if it's something that I want to be able to function in the way that it's supposed to. It feels like a puzzle that I get to figure out. So when I first made teapots, I was just making them to look like teapots. They didn't necessarily open or function in the way that a teapot should. But once I kind of figured out how to bring that all together, that was really satisfying. And as silly and insignificant all of this is really, like, for me, that was a really, like, important kind of moment for me to be able to figure that out and make this thing work. And I don't know, it's something that I really just enjoy. It's like a secret place where I can be happy.
Since I know Amanda personally, I can see how she's turned to crafting miniatures and building an elaborate dollhouse during times in her life that were stressful or difficult. And it's clear from our conversation that for her, this artistic practice is not about mastery or dominance and control over the real world. It's a source of joy, a solitary joy, and one that is shared with others. We have links to Amanda Nicky's miniature work on our website, ipm.org/nicework. You can also see some of the pieces we talked about on our social media, WFIU_official. I'm Kayte Young. More nice work just ahead.
If you like smart conversations, you'll like The State of Inquiry.
It's not just ChatGPT.
Marital satisfaction,
how memory changes with age.
Social media or to TikTok or to influencers.
Strife, discord, and conflict.
Enjoyment, motivation.
Cascading effects on rural communities.
Safe drinking water.
What can we do to deter changes?
It looks pretty, but it doesn't mean it's good.
The State of Inquiry, wherever you find podcasts and at IPM.org.